So for my project, I chose to um, research congenital hypothyroidism. Before I get into what that is and everything that comes with that, first I wanted to discuss what the thyroid gland is and what it does. So the thyroid gland is a butterfly-shaped gland right in the front of the neck. It's right over here, and it's above the collarbone. Its main job is to make thyroid hormones, which are then released into the blood and then carried to the tissues of the body. In children, that hormone is pretty much essential for growth and development, and also it helps ensure that the organs are functioning properly. So in congenital hypothyroidism, some of the characteristics that are seen to begin with are discoloration, changes in muscle tone, and developmental abnormalities. So by discoloration, I mean like babies can exhibit jaundice after birth, they have low muscle tone, and poor growth, and they can also have cold extremities. As seen in the picture here, they can also have like a larger, thick tongue and a puffy face. And it's also possible for them to have soft spots on the skull, distended stomach, and a hoarse cry. Causes of this disorder is issues with the development of the thyroid gland or production of the thyroid hormones. Most commonly, this disorder is caused when the thyroid gland doesn't develop properly before birth, so that restricts the ability for the thyroid hormone to be produced properly and then released into the blood to allow for proper growth and development of the organs and the body in general. And then as far as, so that was the hormone production. So thyroid gland development abnormalities are the most common cause again, and then hormone production is another possibility. Thyroid may be developed properly, it's just the hormones aren't being produced as abundantly as they should be, or the pituitary gland, which triggers for the release of the hormones, may not be functioning properly either, which could lead to this disorder. So as far as prevalence, it is more common to see this disorder in females versus males, and it does affect 1 to 2,000 to 4,000 babies. So that's a pretty significant amount, I would say. And it is possible to have testing done right after birth, usually within 2 to 4 days, to see if the baby has the disorder, so then treatment can be started right away. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So people that are most at risk to have this disorder or develop the disorder are children with other chromosomal disorders, autoimmune disorders, or injury to thyroid glands. Like I said, all the newborns are screened at birth, but children with those circumstances are more likely to have this disorder. So the molecular cause for this disorder is the TSHB gene, also called the thyroid stimulating hormone beta. There are many genes that are implicated in this disorder, and they've also discovered more than 10 mutations that are responsible for this specific disorder. But this is the biggest, most common one. So with this mutation, what happens is a mutation is present in TSHB, and that prevents the production of the functional TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, and its release from the pituitary gland. So this leads to thyroid hormones not being stimulated, which results in congenital hypothyroidism and the symptoms and signs that come with the disorder. These mutations, one of the biggest ones is that the beta subunit is shortened in the seatbelt region, with the seatbelt region being partially or completely eliminated. So this is a big part of it because, generally speaking, there's a beta subunit with that seatbelt region and an alpha subunit that allows for the proper function of TSH and release from the pituitary gland so that the other thyroid hormones are stimulated and released. So the beta subunit and the alpha subunit kind of conjoin here, and the beta subunit has a seat belt. It's like a extra kind of piece that wraps around and holds them together, and that is what causes, so a change to that is what causes the lack of functionality of the TSH and the pituitary gland, because that that part of the beta subunit that wraps around the alpha subunit is what allows for that functional TSH. Other mutations that are possible, their amino acids can be changed that are used to make the beta subunit, which results in the seatbelt region not being able to buckle around the alpha subunit. So the mode of inheritance. This disorder is both autosomal recessive and sporadic. So, generally speaking, it does not, just because a family member has had this disorder does not mean that someone else in that family will have it. If it does occur that way, it is a recessive trait, so both the child would have to receive the trait from both the parents. Most commonly, though, it is sporadic, and that is mostly because of the mutations that do occur in the TSHB gene and all the other genes that are involved in this disorder. So this is the pedigree that I created for the project. All of the individuals with the teal dot in it are affected with the disorder, and you can see that most of them it's fairly sporadic. For this child right here, none of the parents or even the grandparents had the disorder, and they were affected with it. For this one, the mother had the disorder, and I believe that's the daughter got the disorder as well. But for the most part, it seems to be pretty sporadic. It's not very common that it happens as an autosomal recessive inheritance pattern. So as far as treatment methods for this, doctors, after testing the baby's blood after birth for T3 and T4 hormone levels, and if they find that they're low and that's congruent with congenital hypothyroidism, they start treatment on levothyroxine, and that's generally crushed up and mixed into baby formula so the baby can have those proper levels of T3 and T4. For genetic testing, Doesn't usually happen before birth. After birth is the most common. That is, like I said before, they test the baby's blood after birth, to determine whether or not their thyroid hormones are low, and if they are, they do start them on the hormone treatment in the form of levothyroxine. It can be done before birth, I'm sure, but I haven't come across any research when I was looking into it that suggests that that is common or even generally possible, just because it is most commonly sporadic. So facilities that offer genetic testing, two of the ones that I found are the DDC Clinic and Prevention Genetics. They just require a saliva sample or blood sample sent to them, and they will run the sequencing of the gene and determine whether or not the patient has congenital hypothyroidism. And generally that seems to range from $890 to $3,000 for that kind of treatment. And then, yep, I think that's it. So these are all my references. And yes, I think that is it. Thank you so much for listening.